All right, good morning, Chair Postman, board members, and staff. The lobby is open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, everybody. We'll call to order the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board meeting for Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Our first order of business is approval of meeting minutes from our October 27th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
I will move approval.
I second.
And approved. Thank you. And ask Kathy Hoffman, the Policy and Rules Manager, to give us an update on rulemaking timelines.
Great, thank you, Chair Postman, and good morning, board members Garrett and Hauge. Brief update for rules progress today, and for listeners joining us for this session today, we are moving to a monthly update rather than a bi-weekly rules update unless we have significant events or other information to share about rulemaking. So beginning with our alcohol rules in progress, the public hearing on proposed rules to implement House Bill 1480 is being held today, and Robert will be providing a brief procedural history on that project before the public hearing opens. With respect to the rule project concerning axe throwing, the comment period on the CR 101 ends on November 19th, and a handful of comments have been received to date. We're working internally on developing draft conceptual rules that we look forward to sharing with stakeholders in listen and learn sessions towards the end of the year. Moving to the cannabis side, the rule project concerning quality control is progressing as planned, and we're on track to present the CR 102 package to you for approval on December 8th. We're wrapping up our work with our economist on the small business economic impact statement. And as with all of our rule projects that require a full SBIS, that work will be presented in both the CR 102 form, it's filed with the code revisor, and is a standalone document that is not. And then with respect to the THC compound evaluation rule proposal, there are no updates to provide at this time. One oral comment was received so far, and public hearing will be held on December 8th. And then finally, no comments have been received on the CR 101 filed on October 27th concerning social equity in cannabis. Our internal work group has convened twice so far to identify focus areas that we can begin working on that fall within the agency's statutory authority. And as a team, we're closely following, and some of us are directly engaged with the Social Equity Task Force. I'd like to recognize the licensing division for all of the work that they've done to lay the foundation for this project. And we look forward to working with the community on it as well. So that concludes updates. Any questions?
Not for me today. Seeing none. Okay, we'll move to our next item, which you can stay right there. And we will look at two more rescissions of board interim policies. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. All right, two rescissions to present today, and going to provide a couple of brief summaries to the extent possible. So the first rescission concerns board interim policy, or BIP 107, concerning guidelines for determining that an area is adequately served. This policy addressed some concerns that were later addressed by legislation in 2009. And that legislation established the spirits, beer, and wine license, and also provisions for considerations when determining whether there are adequate licenses in a locality to serve the reasonable needs of that locality. So for these reasons, this BIP is no longer needed and can be rescinded at this time. Second rescission concerns BIP 11, 2019, that allows cannabis testing labs the ability to pay vendor fees for validation and ongoing monitoring directly to the LCB or its vendor. Current rule provides that those fees must be paid directly to LCB's vendor. And just for background, previously Columbia Basin College and LCB entered into an interagency agreement for performance of third-party validation of certified labs. Hang on a second, validation of certified labs, but that work was being performed, by RJ Lee Group as a subcontractor to Columbia Basin. At the same time, LCB had been pursuing a sole source contract with RJ Lee, and RJ Lee was willing to continue lab certification review and validation, but was unable to accept payments from cannabis testing labs for a variety of reasons. LCB staff worked with our finance director, and billing could be accommodated through the LCB finance department. So the BIP allowed LCB to complete its contract with RJ Lee and served as a placeholder until the rules section, and that's WAC 314-550995, could be updated. As part of our project to convert existing BIP to policy statements, I'd ask for your approval to rescind this BIP as well, and if approved, we have a policy statement ready to file with the code revisor as soon as this meeting concludes today. So this will provide the continuity needed until we can open the rules section, and this conversion is clearly stated in the rescission document for your consideration today. So I would ask for your approval to rescind these two board interim policies.
One just point of clarification to make sure that 11/2019 is the most confusing one yet, even though I know in the end it isn't. But just to be clear, that one we're essentially converting an interim policy to a statement that will release right away. So there is no operational change in that process, correct?
Exactly right. We're just making a conversion from one form to another, and the policy statement filed with the code revisor is just a more formal process.
And it just still would be the same parties that are involved in the RJ Lee group, et cetera, whatever, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Then we can take a motion on the two different rescissions of policy 1-07 and board interim policy 11-2019.
This is Ali. I move approval of the rescission of policy 0107 and policy 11-2019.
You're muted. I'm going to guess you seconded, but
Sorry.
let's be sure.
Yeah, I second the motion. Rasaugi.
Great, thank you. And those are approved. Thanks, Ms. Hoffman. How are we on the long list of BIPs? Are there more to come?
Yeah, there are a few more to come, but I think this is the final just rescission that will not be converted to a board interim policy. I think, I'm sorry, a policy statement.
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
So
that's great.
The remainder, yeah, we're almost completed with this project.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to alcohol related rulemaking, and Robert Despain. I don't know if Robert, if you have an update as well as setting us up for the public hearing, but I will turn it over to you.
No further updates besides the public hearing. So good morning, Chair Postman. Good morning, board members Garrett and Hauge. By way of brief background before we move into the public hearing today, this rule proposal relates to the implementation of 2021 legislation House Bill 1480 related to COVID-19 alcohol allowances. 1480 allows specifically listed privileges or allowances for certain liquor licensees to continue until June 30th, 2023 to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The bill took effect on April 14, 2021, and the board approved filing a CR 101 to begin rulemaking to implement this bill on May 12, 2021. To prepare the CR 102 package and the proposed rules, the rule drafting team held several internal meetings to develop rule language and consider public comments. The comments were received via email and during the two listen and learn sessions held on August 5th and September 2nd, 2021. A table of these comments is attached to the CR 102 package, and the CR 102 memo describes how the stakeholder feedback was incorporated into the proposed rules. The policy and rules team also interviewed 12 volunteer licensees between September 15th and 21st to gather data on estimated cost of compliance in order to meet the Regulatory Fairness Act requirements. This cost of compliance information is captured in the CR 102 form as well. The board approved filing the CR 102 and the proposed rules on September 29th, 2021. These proposed rules create new temporary endorsements for to-go sales of cocktails and wine by the glass, manufacture distilled alcohol products, and growlers. The proposed rules also create a new temporary rule section that provides licensees with more options for outdoor alcohol service area, and permanently amends existing food service menu requirements to provide more flexibility for licensees. Shortly after the public hearing today, our project team will meet to review and consider any additional public comments received. If no substantive changes need to be made to this proposed rules, the CR 103 will be submitted to the board for approval on December 8th, 2021. If approved, the CR 103 and final rules will be filed, making the rules effective as of January 8th, 2022. This concludes the presentation prior to the public hearing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, I had to find my mute button. I have one or two quick.
Yes, sir.
Yesterday when you were briefing us at Cox about this, I was asking about what sort of feedback, and it seemed, in some ways we weren't hearing from people, but thanks for the memo, and I finally had a chance to really read it, and you look at the level of engagement, it's really pretty good. I mean, you had 55 or 60 people show up for listen and learn and others. So it's always interesting at the end of the process. We don't have a lot of people signed up to testify, but because they've already been heard. I think you laid that out really well. Can you just touch on the study that has to be done, and how does this proposal address the study at all that is going to be done to see what the impacts are, or is that separate from this rules package, the study the legislature mandated?
The study mandate is going to be separate from this rules package, but this needs to be in place in order for the study to occur.
Okay. And will we be, or has that happened already? Is there now will be some formal structure for that study that we will be overseeing? How is that going to work?
I'm going to have to get back to you then. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I can't speak
sorry,
directly to that.
I should have. I just was looking at the memo, and it reminded me that it has this mandate for the study, and I really want to make sure we, make, as we have here, encourage people to participate in that as much as possible, so we can see what the real impacts of this are now that we're extending it. So, at some point in the future, let's connect on how that works. I should know that.
Absolutely. And again, I could offer you something, but I don't want to speak out of hand without
that's all right.
reviewing the okay.
Yeah, it's not urgent at all, this matter. The important thing was that it's not part of this, so that we'll, move ahead on this. Any other questions for Robert before we open the public hearing? No. Okay, then we will open the public hearing on the 2021 legislation implementation for House Bill 1480 on alcohol allowances. A couple of quick reminders. As always the case with our meetings, it's being recorded. When I call your name, please state your name and the affiliation, and then be mindful of the time. You'll each be given 4 minutes, and Dustin will politely interrupt when you have 30 seconds left, just to let you know, and then we ask you to wrap up. And just as a reminder for everybody, this is just for those testifying specifically on this package here on House Bill 1480. After this, we'll have the general public comment. So the first person I have signed up is Katie Doyle.
Good morning, Chair Postman and members of the board. Had a feeling I'd be first today, and I'm excited about it. Katie Doyle, representing the Washington Hospitality Association and thousands of licensees across the state. We are extremely grateful for the thoughtful and collaborative approach to the rulemaking on House Bill 1480. It was an amazingly well-run process, and we had lots of opportunity to provide input, and we're really grateful for that. Our members are generally supportive of the proposed rules and only have one significant request. But naturally, I have to start with highlighting all of the things that we are thankful for, which include the lessened meal requirements, flexibility in outdoor service areas, minors have no access to our alcohol products. We appreciate the clear guidelines for allowable containers for alcohol to go, and the ability for third-party delivery services to deliver beer and wine specifically. The one change we are requesting is to see an increase in the number of ounces of spirits allowed per complete meal. As you may know, several other states have also passed legislation in regard to alcohol to go. For example, in Oregon, they've passed this legislation to become permanent, so they can have cocktails, beer, and wine to go into eternity. For them, you're allowed to do 2 cocktails per complete meal, each at 3 ounces, so totaling 6 ounces versus the 3 ounces we're allowed here in Washington. California has extended these allowances through 2026. They also allow 2 cocktails per complete meal at 4.5 ounces each, so totaling 9 ounces per complete meal. And other states don't have limitations on the ounces at all. So we are requesting an increase in the ounces per meal today. We'd love to see a reflection of at least 6 ounces per complete meal. And that's the only change we want out of this beautiful rules package. So we thank you for your time today and look forward to continuing to work with the Liquor and Cannabis Board.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Doyle. Appreciate that. Next up is Josh McDonald. You might be muted, Josh.
How about now?
Perfect.
Okay, great. All right, you can see me too. Okay. Good morning, Chair Postman, board members Garrett and Hauge. My name is Josh McDonald. I am the Executive Director of the Washington Wine Institute. We are the trade association for the Washington State wine industry. We represent hundreds of wineries across the state. The Washington Wine Institute is grateful for the thoughtful and collaborative approach to the rulemaking and House Bill 1480. As you mentioned, Chairman, we are part of the Listen and Learn among with many others, and grateful for that opportunity to talk through. Actually, there were 2 Listen and Learns, and I thought the rules team did a great job taking in input from both the to-go side and the outdoor seating side, as both are very important to licensees and for us for wineries. We are generally supportive of the draft rules. We do have a few questions remaining on them that may need a little more work, but overall, I want to know how much we're grateful for the hard work and willingness to listen to us, and some of our concerns have already been addressed in these rules. So specifically, we're grateful for the recognition that to-go privileges for wineries have existed for years, and so we are exempted from the specifically takeout exemptions because our privileges and the requirements there within, because we already have those. We've had them for many years, and they've served wineries well for many years, selling wine to go out of our wineries and tasting rooms. We are the outdoor seating was as big, if not bigger, for us, the modernization of that than the to-go sales, and for that we're extremely grateful for your team. They did a wonderful job of putting rules in place that modernizes outdoor seating, recognizes the current types of outdoor seating we have now that we had to put in place because of the pandemic. For most of 2020, we were only allowed to serve outside, which made sense, but we had to make that work. We have a lot of creative approaches to how we serve our customers outside. Our customers still ask to be outside when the weather is allowed for it to be. And so we want to continue those and continue to stay creative with them, but also safe and responsible at the same time. And finally, on that part, I really want to say how grateful we are for the recognition and the extension of the cafe, what's known as sidewalk cafe seating, or demarcation approach to outdoor seating for licensees, especially wineries. Prior to this rulemaking, it was really only for a few licensees, restaurant licensees. Now it's being expanded so that we can, as we go into more urban spaces as wineries, we can utilize the demarcations and make our spaces work better for us and not have to worry so much about the 42-inch physical barriers that are often very challenging to set up those spaces. 2 questions we have remaining for the rules that I'd like to work with your team on. One is just better understanding their requirements and who they are specifically impacting on the delivery service and consumer orders, internet sales and delivery. Those rules, we were working on those rules with the Liquor and Cannabis Board for wineries back in 2016 to 18. We did not finish that work, and I know we're going to continue working on in the future. But for now, we'd like to make sure we understand that what we do now with our common carriers, as we are distributors of our own wine, continues to be recognized as its own thing, and we continue to do that without interruption. I don't believe 1480 meant to impact how wineries utilize common carriers to ship wine direct to consumer across the state, which is really the lifeblood of our industry. And then finally, yes, sir. Am I done?
Sorry, 30 seconds, Josh.
30 seconds, great. One final question, then I'll let you go. We were grateful for the recognition when we talked about how to if there needed to be what needed to happen for a space to be able to utilize outdoor seating, and the current rules talk about needing to have indoor dining and other related things. There are opportunities where we can utilize an outdoor space and not specifically need to have indoor service at all. And so we did notice that the new rules have production. So if you have production like a winery does, you can utilize your outdoor space. That I'm not sure helps us with our satellite tasting rooms. So specifically for wineries, restaurants may have their own perspective and others, but for wineries, we have retail spaces outside of our winery space that we have satellite locations on. We're not sure that would help those spaces if we want to utilize our 100% of our outdoor space for seating and for service, and do it in a smart, responsible way. So that may need a little more tweaking depending on how the how your team, how the liquor board looks at domestic wineries and our satellite taste room uses for this specific rulemaking. With that, I will say just again, thank you for your time. Thank you for this hard work. Thank you to your team. They've done a wonderful job, and I look forward to continue to work with them.
Thanks, Josh. The last person we had signed up to testify, I'm not sure she was going to make it, but let me just check. Annie McGrath from the Washington Brewers Guild said she would submit written testimony. Just thought I would check. Okay.
Yeah, Chair, she's not on with us today.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I did confirm that she sent something in writing.
Oh, okay, great. Then that it closes the public hearing on implementation of House Bill 1480. Thank you all for that. We're now to the general public comment part. Dustin, I'll just check with you again. We had one potential. Has anybody joined us?
We had one person register, but they are not online.
Not online. Okay. With that, then, we have come to the end of the agenda, unless either of my colleagues have anything to add at the end. No? Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much. Have a great day. One note, there will be no board meeting on November 24th. That's the one right before the Thanksgiving holiday. Give us all a break from the stakeholders and us. But other than that, we will be on our regular schedule. So thank you all for attending today. Have a good day.